By 2006, Noida had become a sprawling symbol of India's economic boom. Glass towers and concrete flyovers were multiplying by the month. But beneath the glow of this rapid urbanization, the city was quietly swallowing its most vulnerable residents. Right next to the affluent Sector 31 sat Nithari village. For 2 agonizing years, parents from this marginalized community kept walking into the local police station to report their children missing. Dozens vanished without a trace, and for 2 years, the police ignored them, often claiming the teenagers had simply run away. Driven by desperation, the residents finally took matters into their own hands in December 2006. Searching a municipal water tank and the open drain, directly behind a sprawling bungalow marked D5, they pulled a decomposed human hand from the muck. That single grim discovery forced the authorities to act. Over the next few weeks, investigators pulled bags of chopped human remains from the drains surrounding the house. Forensic experts eventually assembled skulls and bones belonging to at least 19 distinct victims, mostly young girls and children. The horrors pulled from the Nithari drains shattered any illusion of safety in the suburbs. A quiet, wealthy neighborhood was suddenly recognized globally as the site of the most disturbing serial killings in Indian history. The police quickly zeroed in on the residents of Bungalow D5, a wealthy businessman named Moninder Singh Pandey and his domestic helper, Surendra Kohli. Kohli provided investigators with a highly publicized, deeply disturbing confession. He detailed how he lured children passing by the house, assaulted them, and then systematically dismembered their bodies in the upstairs bathroom, even claiming acts of cannibalism before tossing the remains into the drain. The nation demanded severe punishment, and the legal system delivered. Swift trials led to multiple convictions. Kohli was handed over a dozen death sentences, while Pandey also faced the gallows in several cases. For a horrified public, the monsters were caged, and the victims' families finally had closure. But that closure was built on a legal house of cards. 17 years after the gruesome discoveries, the story unraveled. In late 2023, the Allahabad High Court, and later the Supreme Court in 2024, completely acquitted both Kohli and Pandey in the remaining cases. Their death sentences were overturned, and the men were ordered to be released. How does a confessed serial killer, condemned by multiple lower courts, legally walk free after 19 years behind bars? The answer lies in a police investigation that was fatally flawed from the very first day. When the appellate judges scrutinized the mountain of paperwork supporting the convictions, the prosecution's narrative collapsed under its own weight. The High Court looked closely at the original crime scene reports. A 7-member forensic team from Agra, along with top experts from the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, had thoroughly inspected the interior of Bungalow D5. According to Kohli's confession, dozens of brutal dismemberments took place in the upstairs bathroom. Yet the forensic teams found absolutely zero blood, DNA, or biological material linking a single victim to the inside of that house. Outside the house, the situation was even worse. Before the police bothered to secure the perimeter around the open drain, crowds of angry locals, media crews, and politicians had already spent hours trampling through the mud and debris. Because the site wasn't locked down, the skeletal remains were carelessly dug up and mixed together. This severe contamination made it nearly impossible for scientists to accurately sequence the DNA, match specific skulls to specific torsos, or establish a reliable timeline of deaths. Without physical evidence, the prosecution relied entirely on a Section 164 confession. This is a formal statement recorded before a magistrate, which is generally considered strong evidence in Indian courts. In the Nithari trials, it became the single, incredibly fragile pillar holding up the entire case. The physical proof was a mirage. Instead of conducting a rigorous scientific inquiry, investigators opted for a neat, terrifying story that tied up all the loose ends without requiring them to actually prove it. The High Court then turned to that crucial confession and found terrifying irregularities. Legally, a confession must be entirely voluntary. But Kohli had been held in uninterrupted police custody for 60 days without meaningful access to legal aid before he formally admitted to the crimes. During the trial, Coley's statements under cross-examination revealed exactly how his story was built. When asked how he could identify the numerous victims he supposedly killed in a manic frenzy, Coley stated on the record, "The police told me. They showed me the photographs." The investigators didn't use his knowledge to find the bodies. They used the bodies they had already found to script his knowledge. The police actively tutored Coley, manufacturing a confession that perfectly matched their post-mortem reports. While the police were busy forcing a confession, they buried another explosive lead. Early in the investigation, a high-level government committee reviewed the butcher-like precision of the dismemberments and strongly urged the CBI to investigate a potential illicit organ trade syndicate operating in Noida. But the authorities ignored this recommendation entirely. Chasing an organized, heavily funded organ trafficking ring would be dangerous and complex. Pinning 19 murders on a powerless domestic servant was easy. The state didn't build the Nithari case to find the real killers. They built it to manufacture a scapegoat, allowing them to quickly close the books on the disappearance of marginalized children. Today, House D5 stands as a physical monument to this failure. The once wealthy bungalow is now a looted, overgrown ruin. Thieves have stripped it bare, stealing the air conditioners, the gates, and even the bathtub where the horrors allegedly took place. It is a hollowed-out shell, directly mirroring the collapsed legal case against the men who lived there. For the families in Nithari village, the acquittals reopened a wound that had never truly healed. Lakshmi, a mother who lost her child to the killings, summed up the devastating human cost, stating simply, "We are poor, and that's why we lost. There is no justice for the poor." The Allahabad High Court echoed this sentiment in its final judgment. The judges slammed the investigators for a betrayal of public trust, noting that they had allowed mere suspicion and public outrage to replace actual, admissible proof. And that leaves us with a terrifying reality. Because the state trampled the crime scene, coerced a false confession, and intentionally ignored alternative leads, the truth of what happened in Nithari is lost forever, which means the people who slaughtered those 19 children are likely still walking among us.